if I were to say to you, remember who you are and what you represent, what would that mean?
Well, that means that that was what we were all supposed to be aware of when we were living here, and we went out of the school. We were always told, remember who you are and what you represent.
And we were always dressed properly with our hats and gloves as we left to go to sightsee in Washington, and that was the last thing they said to us, remember who you are and what you represent.
Anything else? No? That's good. Okay. Go back to the beginning. How did you decide, or how did your family decide, that you would attend National Park College?
I remember having someone, a female, come to my parents' home in Kingston, Pennsylvania, and showing us the brochures about this school. And I can't remember whether we came and did a dry run or not, but this was the choice, and I never made a mistake. This was one of the happiest years of my life.
Timmy, do you remember? Was it your decision or was it your parents' decision that you would come here?
Oh, we were just talking, of course it was during the Depression when we were doing all of this, of course, and I was looking for colleges, and I wanted to go to school up in New York State where my friends were going, but my father said, no, I want you to go someplace where you'll meet other people. And so I came down here just through hearing about it through one of our friends who had a daughter who was coming here and knew nothing about it, but we came down and looked at it, and that's all I had to see. Once I saw it, this was where I was going to go. And as Bobby said, it was the happiest 1 year of her life. It was the happiest 2 years of mine, fortunately. We were able to be here.
Timmy, this question is for you, but others can weigh in if they want to add to it. I have heard the National Park Seminary described as a finishing school. When you were here at the National Park College, after it had been accredited as a junior college and so on, and there had been some changes perhaps in the curriculum, would you see that description as accurate? Was it a finishing school?
This is for me.
No, yes.
I would definitely say it was a finishing school.
What did that mean?
Well, going away to school wasn't the way going away to school is today. We were not, working was kind of a no-no. We were taught, number one, remember you're always a lady, and number two, be a gracious lady. And my family really thought that this was exposing me culturally, and if I was going to leave the nest, I was going to go to a very well-protected nest. And that was, if I was going to fly, this is as far as I was going to fly.
We also heard that some of the students brought their own horses with them. Did you bring a horse?
No, I didn't bring a horse. I rode someone else's.
Very good. Anybody else have thoughts about this question of how much the college was or was not a finishing school?
Well, I think Dr. Davis, when he first had the school, it had the reputation, of course, and it was a finishing school. National Park Seminary was what they called a finishing school in those days. As the colleges were becoming popular in those days, junior colleges were becoming popular in those days. I think, I don't know how Dr. Davis decided to do that, but it certainly was a good decision to make it a first 2 years of college and the last 2 years of high school. And while it was probably more than the regular junior colleges that were in our areas, it was part of finishing school and part of college, which was a good combination.
Okay, good. Back to Bobby. Tell us what part of attending National Park College was most enjoyable to you. What did you enjoy most about your experience?
Well, I had a wonderful roommate to begin with. Betty Lou Seipert Van Zandt, she is from Colorado right now, and I spoke to her right before I was coming here and hoped that she would be able to join us. And she said she would love to come back, but she was going to her grandson's graduation and couldn't come. But she and I had a wonderful relationship, and being in this wonderful place, it's so unique. And I had always heard that this was probably the best finishing school in the United States. And it was just a great experience, and one of the best experiences that I remember is that Eleanor Roosevelt came here, and we all had a chance to shake hands with her. And that was really quite an experience. Otherwise, I could go on all day, probably.
I think you could. We have a question from the audience. Did National Park College grant degrees in the sense that we know nowadays,
Well,
a bachelor's or an associate degree?
They were, after 2 years, it was two,
We got a diploma.
we had a diploma for 2 years of college, and I don't know how many girls went on to universities and to get their degrees. It would be interesting to know. I don't think too many of them did, somehow or other. I know my father wanted me to go and finish, and I didn't want to. I wanted to go to Toby Coburn School for Fashion Careers. I don't know whether anyone, and all I had to do was mention that to my father. He said, "Oh, that must be like another national park." So I couldn't go. I eventually did after 2 years of secretarial work, which I didn't really like, but it was too late because I got married, so I didn't have that career.
Thank you. Another question from the audience, but you got us into this area already. Famous visitors, you mentioned Eleanor Roosevelt, but was it common for famous people, notable people, to come to the school or invite you to wherever they were while you were students?
I think the other two can answer that better than I can because I was here only the 1 year. But yes, there were people, well-known people who came here, and of course Eleanor Roosevelt was the best to my knowledge. But what do you think?
Well, actually, when Timmy and I were here, the years that we were here, we actually went to the White House for tea. And we were received by Eleanor Roosevelt in the White House, both of the years. And that was outstanding, really, quite a thrill for us to do that.
Yeah.
I'm told to ask Timmy, what about Mary Pickford?
Yes. You can tell when I was here. Well, actually, we entertained her for tea, and she sat right here in front of the fireplace with all of us sitting around and told us all about it. And I think at that time, the word that Hollywood was using was glamour.
Glamorous.
I think that's where it started. And she was pretty glamorous, but in an entirely different way than we would use it today. In fact, we don't use that word anymore. And she spent the afternoon with us, telling us all about Pick Fair, and she was married to Douglas Fairbanks Sr. Probably. The funny thing, when I was telling someone else the last time I was here about Mary Pickford, he said, "Who is that?" So that made me understand exactly how long ago I was here.
It was a while.
I've got another question from the audience. What did it cost to come to National Park College? What was the tuition? And if you remember, what was the room and board, the other fees?
I remember I had a room right above, on the 3rd floor above the balcony, and I roomed with 2 other girls. There were 3 of us in the bedroom.
Sweet.
A
suite, yeah.
It was a suite. And we had another room, of course, with our desks and whatever. And it cost $1,200 for that year.
Mm-hmm.
Can you
I had a
remember?
suite. Well, I had a suite, and I had 2 roommates. One studied calculus, the other one was studying botany. And I think I had about 2 months of that. But my suite at the time, my father insisted upon a suite. He figured with 2 roommates I couldn't get in too much trouble. It was $1,600.
Okay. You had the deluxe one.
I had I was glad it didn't come with a bodyguard.
Well, all you have to do is visit this campus for the first time and you discover that the sorority system must have been very important here because there are so many sorority houses and they are so
Unique.
fanciful and unique. So I want to hear from you. What did the sororities mean to you? What were they for? What kinds of activities did you take part in under the sorority system? And tell us what sorority you were in and what clubhouse you used.
You want me?
Yes.
Well, Timmy and I were both Alpha Pi Epsilon, which I always...
Alpha Epsilon Pi, right?
Alpha Epsilon Pi, which I always thought was an English hunting lodge. Now they say that what was it?
So the American,
Alpha.
the American,
American,
is it what
yeah.
we call the American
But
Bungalow?
we
Yeah.
used to meet there on Sundays, was it?
Well, it was a social type of thing, and we would entertain people. And on Sunday afternoon, we had tea together on Sunday. And we would do good things.
Yeah, we never lived in them. We
We
just
never lived in them. It was a
visited there.
social type of thing. And if you wanted to do your own thing, you could go to the sorority house. There was always someone there and be with them. It was a nice kind of, you had enough of the big time, you got a little time.
Timmy and I got a chance to go in there yesterday for the first time in how many years? 60 years?
You're kidding yourself at 70.
70.
Hard to imagine at 70.
And it brought back a lot of memories, but it's going to be very interesting for someone to live there. It'll be a wonderful place to live.
Elaine, what was your sorority?
Mine is Chi Pi. I think you've passed the little cottage coming in. It's painted green now. And is it sold? I think
No,
it's
but it's
not.
on the market.
It is absolutely charming. I think you all should look at it. Maybe you might want to move in. It is. I was ready to move in. It's done over, and it's really a charming little house. And we had a lot of fun there. Our sorority mother was also the art teacher here, Miss Kelly, and she was jovial and fun. And we used to look forward to those Sunday nights. And one special thing she did was read tea leaves. So we had a lot of questions in those days about boyfriends and whatever. And we would go up on the second floor, and she would read the tea leaves. And that was, I remember that just so well. But we all went to our sorority houses on Sunday nights, and they were all very charming. As you can see if you drive around, they are unique. And they were social. They had nothing to do with national sororities, but we loved them.
Well, you mentioned boyfriends.
Pardon?
You mentioned boys. You did. I did. So let's talk about that. One of our members of the audience wants to know how you met boys in this all-girls school.
Well, I can tell you.
It wasn't hard.
I can remember standing up in one of these balconies with the long white gloves up to here and a long dress with the tongues hanging out, watching all the boys coming in from Annapolis and Georgetown, and we all had to pay 10 cents for a date.
We don't remember the 10 cents.
Well, I remember it.
She was
We
younger.
came down, and when we were introduced to the boys, and then we danced here.
Who collected the 10 cents?
Yeah.
Probably the boys. I don't remember that.
Oh, that's funny.
Now, the boys came from places like
Annapolis and
Georgetown.
Georgetown, yeah.
And they came in groups. They weren't your dates.
No, they were brought in en masse.
They came back as dates.
Yeah, we
They
used
came back as dates.
the big event here, of course, was Mardi Gras, and then we invited our own, and it was formal, and the young men came and brought corsages for us, and it was it was quite a lovely.
It was a busy time.
Our big thing revolved around Mardi Gras
Mardi Gras.
that month. It was if you see the pictures on the postcard, that probably was Mardi Gras where we're all dancing in the ballroom.
That was fun.
Now, I've heard that there was a member of the faculty or the administration by the name of Miss Mumford who played a role in the selection of boys who could come to the campus and socialize with you.
She played a very important role.
Not only
socialized with
in everything that we did.
everything.
She was very strict.
Well, she made certain that if we had a date, it was a proper date. And before we would be called to tell that our date had arrived, he would go through the paces in one of our little parlors. And if he was acceptable, he was able to spend the evening here and socialize. That wasn't an easy task.
Acceptable to Miss Mumford. That was the rule. So that's who you are and what you represent.
Very definitely.
Okay. Now, I've heard another story, and if I've heard these stories, it's because I've heard them from you or people like you know, alumni who I've had a chance to talk to. I've heard a story that the Georgetown boys were different from the boys from West Point and Annapolis and Princeton and other schools that you may have invited to your ballroom. How was that? Well, how were they different?
Well, we would have a little time between dances and so forth, and, you know, powder your nose and so forth, but the Georgetown boys would invite you to go out and see some of the statuary. And that was a no-no. Lots of girls got in trouble with that no-no. But if she really did go powder her nose, he would go out by himself and have a little
Cigarette?
drink.
Or cigarette?
A little cheer. No, because on a Sunday morning, they would go round and behind the statuary there would be empty bottles. Georgetown was known for
Probably not only
their
Georgetown.
capabilities.
I'm sure it wasn't only Georgetown. Probably had a few other young men who were.
They were consistent.
Yeah, they were. Oh, it's cute.
I think there's a report.
I didn't have a boyfriend from Georgetown.
I
didn't have one.
John Smith.
But besides the dances, did the girls ever leave the campus? Not for formal trips. We'll talk about that in a minute. But sneak out. Did you sneak out? You know.
Not I.
No, the consequences were too great.
Well, I paid the consequences though, because we were allowed to go out for dinner. If we signed out, we could call a taxi cab and go down to the hot shop and have dinner, 2 or 3 girls. And one night, I had had dinner in the dining room with a couple of gals, and we didn't like the dinner, so we decided, let's go. So we called a taxi cab, went to the hot shop, had dinner, very innocent evening, but we got caught coming back. And I was campus for 2 weeks, so I paid that consequence. So there were times when you could get away with it, but it was pretty hard.
You didn't.
I didn't. I wasn't lucky.
Never tried it.
But we did go away if we had permission and chaperoning, we could go to other colleges, to dances and house parties and whatever. But we had to make sure that our parents knew about it and exactly who was with us. And there were different days, that's for sure.
And trips to downtown Washington were a pretty regular affair. Am I
Every
right about
week.
that? So
Every
what kinds of things did you
On
visit?
Saturdays we went.
Sightseeing days.
Sightseeing. Do you go to museums or?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah,
We saw every site in Washington.
everyone.
And I've heard something about spring break trips.
I don't know about that.
Oh yeah, we did. I don't think I could afford it. So they went to Bermuda
Yes.
and every year they went to an interesting place. Sometimes it was New York, I remember one time, they went to Bermuda,
Yeah, yep,
and but we
Yeah,
had
we-
enough to do right here in Washington.
yeah. And when we weren't in Washington, we were doing other things at home we couldn't do in Washington.
Right, that's right.
No, no, we had a good time.
Oh, I found another question about the boys. I'm sorry to keep coming back to that. But somebody wanted to know where the boys stayed when the whole group came from Annapolis or wherever. And
Oh, they never stayed.
They never stayed
They
here.
didn't stay.
I
They
think
just
they'd
did-
go back.
went back.
home the same evening. How about if they came from West Point?
They didn't.
No, they
They
didn't
didn't.
come
They
from
didn't-
West
they
Point.
didn't-
No,
that may have been an
Minneapolis.
earlier stage.
That was too far, I guess.
Okay, so the answer is.
It was
that
just
the boys
locally.
stayed-
Yeah,
stayed-
They
Probably.
came in Washington, when they came for Mardi Gras, they stayed in Washington.
Yeah,
And
It was up to them to
went out.
find out.
Yeah, they were on their own.
most of them were, a lot of the young men were from the University of Maryland, and close by.
Okay, I've got another question that gets us back to the dances in the ballroom. What were the dances like? You talked about formal gowns and long white gloves. Were the dances all formal? Did you jitterbug?
Oh yeah.
Swing dancing? What kinds of things did you do?
Well, we had dancing cards. We just didn't
I
go
forgot to
out there
bring
and say, go on a dance. We had dancing cards. We were spoken for, and then the music was,
We had little. They were called dance cards, and you had your date was the one you danced with the most, of course. But then you exchanged with your friends' dates, and it was all written down. It's first, second, third, fourth, probably there were a dozen dances, and that we mostly did some waltzing, some
a lot of
Foxtrot.
foxtrot was the most famous, and we did some jitterbug,
Lambert Walk.
the Lambert Walk.
That was a
Yeah.
big item
Can I
then.
tell a
We had
story about
very,
the tea
very
room?
good orchestra here. Harry James was here. Anybody remember Harry James? I remember him particularly, but we were able to get really good musicians back in
Yeah.
those days.
You had a story.
Yeah, in the tea room, which is still here, I guess, I remember two people in my class. We had a jukebox, one of the first jukeboxes. And these two girls in my class, one was from Texas, and she had jet black curly hair, and the other one was Noelle Moffat from New York. And she was studying ballet, and she had her legs insured for $10,000. And the two of them, everybody would go sit down, so the two of them would jitterbug to the music from the jukebox. And that was the biggest thrill, to watch those two going around, spinning around,
Especially under 10,000.
jitterbugging.
That's cute.
We've got another question here. Somebody wants to know how important horseback riding was on the campus. We've talked about that before, and where the stables were, where the horses were kept, where you rode.
The bridle paths were beautiful. I rode.
You rode where?
The bridal
The
path.
bridle path.
Through
That
the
would
property.
be what we often call Ireland Drive into the woods. Okay. And I've seen photographs of a riding ring of some sort.
There was,
Yeah.
we did a lot of riding.
Okay. All right.
I never rode here.
I did a couple of times.
Yeah.
There's a picture in some of my pictures. There's a picture of a horse show that I don't
Yeah.
actually remember much
I
about
remember
how many horse shows we had. But I must
Well, there were lots of girls that were really very
Yeah.
into
They
it,
brought
had
their own horses.
Yeah,
Were
we
you,
rode their horses.
Were you on campus when, on that occasion that I've heard about, when two girls took their horses and rode into downtown Silver Spring
Oh, thank
No.
God.
no.
and saw a friend on the other side of Georgia Avenue?
Nope.
So they hitched their horses to a downspout at a store,
Sounds like fun.
and
though.
when a car backfired, the horses bolted and ran in the direction of Washington, dragging the downspout behind them.
That is
Now, is
amazing.
that a myth, or did that really happen?
Not when I.
Not in your time.
Not in my
I
time.
At least I didn't hear about it.
Mrs. Mumford must
Good
have been
story,
on
though.
vacation.
I
Miss Mumford didn't get out to the,
Oh,
to the horse
she must have
barn.
been on vacation.
No, I heard it, so it must be true.
Think it's true? You want it to be true.
I want it to be true. Okay, somebody wants to know whether or not you had to clean your own rooms or were there maids to clean your rooms?
Gee, I
never
don't remember
We
that.
didn't clean.
We didn't clean.
I don't
We made
know.
our beds.
Yes,
Yeah.
we made our beds.
We made
but
the
they-
beds.
I
it was
remember
cleaning.
my roommate's mother would send her chocolate cake, and she'd put it up on the closet shelf.
A few ants.
Closet, yeah, with pieces of chocolate would appear on the scene now and then.
No, we don't remember cleaning.
All right, let's get to a few more of these questions. I'll hold that one till later. We've got some questions about art and music and other things. Somebody wants to know, first of all, whether or not the speaker system, the phonograph, the sound system in the ballroom was in place and working when you were here during your dances.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so,
Well,
you experienced that system.
Well, when we were here the last time, we were told that that speaker system, I thought they said, was one of 3 in the world, and that this is one of the finest that it was ever was, and it was here.
What happened to it?
It's
Still
here.
here.
Still here.
Okay.
Right, that's
Yeah.
what that is, there. We're too busy.
Somebody else wants to know, were the trees and the flowers, the animals, the woods, the setting of the campus, how important was that in your college experience? Did you pay a lot of attention to it, or was it just background?
Well, I think the whole feeling of the campus was something that, as young people, we probably didn't appreciate nearly as much as we did when we came back to it. But I'm sure that it had to have been something that we enjoyed.
Well, it was part of the beauty of this whole area. And here we are all these years later coming back to this such beautiful place. This part of Maryland is beautiful. And I live in outside of Wilkes-Barre in Pennsylvania, and this area reminds me a lot of up there. So I have a great feeling for both places.
Good.
I
Well,
really
walking-
feel that the transition from leaving home and coming away was easier to come to a place that wasn't such a drastic change. There was nothing institutional about this, or you really didn't feel any kind of regimentation. It was a very relaxed, as long as you lived up to the rules,
Yeah.
there wasn't any problem at all.
But the Glen was always, you know, a favorite thing.
Glen.
Just,
The Glen.
just drive.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'll use this opportunity to make a plug, because we do have an upcoming session in this series on Ireland Drive and the woodlands around it, which, for those of you who are interested in that, and there's no reason why any of you should not be interested in that part of the campus, be sure to take that one in. And as it happens, one of our members of our audience who will be giving that lecture is here. Barbara, just wave your hand. If you see Barbara on your way out, say hello to her, and if you have any questions about the woods and the trees and the shrubs, you ask Barbara, and she'll answer.
Actually, it was important, as I think about it, and the decision for my coming here, because while it was close to Washington, we weren't right in
So,
a big city. We were out in the country where it wasn't such an exposure to a big city, and yet we were close enough to enjoy the things that Washington offered. We were close enough to go in often, but we weren't right there where we could get into any trouble quickly.
but the beauty of the place, really, I'm sure,
Yeah.
has always been in our hearts ever since.
Well, I actually like to talk about getting in trouble, So I just want to find out what the college expected of you. In other words, what kind of behavior would get you expelled?
Oh,
Practically
happened.
anything.
It happened,
it happened,
but not to you.
thank God.
I don't remember anybody getting expelled.
I
do.
don't either.
I
But
do.
Timmy
When
does.
when I was here, she did it to herself.
And,
It was
can you tell us what it was she did to herself that got her expelled?
She drank.
With Georgetown boys?
No, well, that might have been
Rabbit.
an influence, but no, I think it was background probably. And she came to school, and we were allowed to go to Washington on Saturdays to the Willard and do a little shopping. And then we would be met in the Willard corner and loaded back onto the bus, and head count and everything. And she was a little wobbly getting on the bus. And when she was reprimanded and canvassed and thought the affair was taken care of. She arrived one day for one of the meals, and she was very wobbly. So they pursued it a little further, and they found a bottle in her riding boots. And that was the end of her. Out.
Okay, so it did happen, but
It
it
didn't.
Oh, yeah.
didn't happen often.
No, that's the only time I ever knew about it.
Another area that seems important, perhaps not as important as dancing and sororities, but I've read a lot of letters that students have written to their parents and to their friends back home, and the references to food and mealtime and snacks and nighttime, bedtime snacks and trips to the ice cream store in Kensington are overwhelming. Sometimes letters talk about nothing else except food. So tell me about the importance of food at National Park College.
I remember they had wonderful sticky buns and baked beans.
We were famous for the sticky buns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we had, I think, did we have them at every meal? I can't remember. I mean,
I
every
don't
dinner.
remember.
We had them often.
We had birthday cakes, lovely birthday cakes. And I remember corn fritters. I can never remember having a fritter before. They were great. No, the food was good.
The food was
They-
good.
Oh, yeah.
I just found a little menu of a Thanksgiving dinner that we had here in 1938, 39, 38, I guess it was. It was 8 courses, and each course, I mean, they started with, olives and celery and bouillon and the main course, and then salad afterwards. It was all listed on the, I brought the program with me.
Good.
And I just couldn't believe, in each course under it, one of the gals had gotten up to speak a certain quote from somewhere, Shakespeare, whatever, from each sorority. So they did, it was quite something to have a dinner like this, and not all the girls were here because some of them had gone home for Thanksgiving. I guess I must have been here for the first Thanksgiving because I have that program. But I just found it the other day, and I thought that was so interesting that they went to such trouble to print it out. And
actually, they invited families to come
yeah.
to Thanksgiving so that the girls here didn't feel as though they were. And a lot of families did come.
yeah. Well, it was a big deal to go
Yeah,
home on the train.
Thanksgiving was such a short, we weren't given a long holiday
Right.
at Thanksgiving.
Right.
We were given a long holiday.
There's a small building on the bridle trail that we always refer to as the picnic house. And I don't know if that's an accurate name, but did you ever have picnics in the woods and at the picnic house? Did you use the picnic house for that?
Occasionally. Occasionally. Not too
Okay.
often.
No,
Okay.
we used the sorority house.
Somebody wanted to know what your favorite class was at school. Was it, let's see, calculus and botany? I heard you mention those. Were those your favorite?
Not mine. Mine was art.
Mine too.
Mine too.
And you're too modest to say so, but both of you went on to careers in art and art-related areas. I'm right about that? Correct. So it must have been pretty good training.
I think, yes, we had an excellent art teacher. The thing that I loved almost the most was history of art. And Miss Kelly did a beautiful, did you take history of art as well? And I remember the first time I went to Europe and I began to see paintings by Fra Filippi and Leonardo da Vinci, names that were, hard to pronounce and wondering about them, but to see the actual paintings after having studied them,
Oh, yeah,
it was
really?
very,
Yeah.
very,
Yeah.
Did she have red hair?
No.
no,
Kelly.
brownish, may have a little red tint to it. But
No.
she was a great lady. She was my sorority mother as well as the art teacher, so the memory of her is
Oh, yeah.
a
Very
favorite of
dear.
mine.
Oh, go ahead.
She went ahead and I loved art, but I didn't have much talent. I couldn't draw a straight line with a ruler, but I could see it, I could feel it. And she appreciated that. She knew I was frustrated. And consequently, Alpha needed a little help. So to get me through, she challenged me, well, see what you can do to make that attractive. So I went to work on Alpha because it did need a little help. And I got the furniture sprayed. We had wicker furniture. I got it sprayed and went into the Heck Company and bought some fabric I thought was attractive. Got the dressmaker to make the cushions, and I had a blast.
You did a great job.
And that got me through my art course and really inspired me to go on, and I've been an interior designer all the rest. Thank you. It was really a wonderful, wonderful way to find out what you really want to do. And I'll never forget her.
She's a sweetheart.
Yeah.
With the classes you took, the art classes and the others, were they electives, or did you were all your classes sort of required classes? How did that work? Your coursework?
I don't remember.
Required or elective?
That's
or
where
both?
she was a wonderful, wonderful teacher.
The art teacher.
Yes, the art teacher.
But could you choose that or choose not to?
Well, you
take
could
that course?
discuss with her what your feelings were. And I think she would decide pretty much where your abilities were.
Mm-hmm. As far as the art, yeah.
As far as they are. Being an artist, saying you want to be an artist is one thing, proving it's quite another.
But we chose other, you're talking about
Other
other courses that we took,
courses,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
We
I
had
don't
languages,
remember.
that we had to
Did we
sign
have
up.
French?
Oh, yes, French. I took Spanish for 1 year, and poetry. We had a great, I forget who taught the poetry, but it was really a great course that, introduces to a lot of the good poetry.
I can see her face, but I can't remember her name.
Miss Heilman, not Miss Heilman. Heilman was the English teacher, but you could more or less take almost anything that you would get in any other college. As far as languages, I didn't know about the botany. I stayed away from that
So did
part. I was never any interested in that. But
No, it was all here. It depended on the individual and what you were looking for.
music,
And
a lot of music.
that was the wonderful part about the school. Self-expression, actually.
Well, I'm falling behind in my questions, and the papers here are about, so I'm just going to go through a lot of these. Did you wear uniforms?
No.
No.
But there
We-
were the finishing
Yeah,
the school
yeah.
always wore uniforms, and
Yes.
they were charming. They
Yeah.
were like a midi, and they came in silk, and they came in kind
Linen.
of a linen, and they were absolutely very, very attractive,
Very.
and they're all different colors. And some of the girls still wore them, and I think you could order them
We-
up to a certain point. I
Well,
never
and
had them.
then as the classes were graduating, you could buy the uniform, and they became scarce. They weren't made any
Yeah,
longer.
yeah.
They became scarce, so we would pass them down.
But we always had
one
to
another.
be dressed, We had, of course, in those days you didn't wear slacks, but you all had sweaters and
Skirts.
saddle shoes and bobby socks and, that kind of thing.
No, and the uniforms weren't, like all navy blue or anything. They were in pastel colors.
They were beautiful.
They were beautiful uniforms. They really were.
Pleated skirts.
Pleated, they were box pleated.
Yeah, they really were
box
pretty.
pleated. Yeah.
Did you stay at the school year round?
No.
No,
So home for
no,
the summer?
home for the summer.
Okay. All right. Yes. Here's a detailed one. How many cooks were here
Oh, dear.
when you were here? Have any idea?
No idea.
We never
No.
got in the kitchen.
Yeah.
But we had, I can remember distinctly being impressed with we had 2 waiters at each table. The tables were, there were 7 girls and 1 hostess.
Round table.
There were 8
Round
round
tables,
tables.
yeah.
And we had 2 men waiters at each table. And then we would rotate. Each night, it would be, one of us would have to play hostess. And we were observed, shall we say.
Okay. How often did you use the gym? Is that a daily thing? Is that a weekly?
I used
I
the,
don't remember.
the swimming pool a lot because I wasn't very athletic. I would disrupt the class, so I would be sent to the pool.
Well, depending on on what team we had. Volleyball. We had competition between the sororities as far as volley. I
We played
particularly remember volleyball,
field hockey,
and
and we played basketball.
so we did.
And a lot of the swinging of dumbbells and riding of rings. I couldn't do any of that.
The next question I have is, did the school enroll people with learning disabilities?
Not that I
not that I
remember.
Okay. Physical? How about physical
No.
handicaps?
I don't
I don't remember
I
anybody
don't
being.
remember anybody being disabled.
How about people who lived at home? Were there people from the neighborhood who went here and did not
Yes,
live
yes.
in dormitories as you did?
A few.
Not many.
Not
yeah,
many,
not
but,
many.
but
Yeah.
some. Okay.
In fact, just Sarah, who was here, she was a day student. Lived in Washington.
Okay.
And came to school.
Jean
There
Ballard.
were a few of them,
Yeah, there were a few.
but not many.
No.
Not many.
Okay.
No.
All right. So we keep getting back to boys. Somebody wants to know if any of you met your future husband here.
Not I.
Not I.
None of you did. Was it?
Almost.
A few.
Was it common for among students other than yourselves?
I had one
think of
friend
you.
here who announced her engagement while she was here. Ned and Harriet
Kimmel?
Oh,
Kimmel.
yeah. That, well, that's an
Admiral
interesting.
Kimmel's son proposed to his wife here.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah, that's an
That's right.
interesting story.
Yes. Yeah.
Is it?
Well,
Well,
It
Harriet
is.
Kimmel, Harriet Kimmel was married to Ned, who died several years ago.
Yeah.
And Ned's father was Admiral
Admiral
Kimmel. Yes, and Admiral Kimmel and General Short were the 2 who were the scapegoats who were blamed for the Second World War. And so poor Ned spent his life trying to exonerate his father, and which never could be done because.
yes, it was finally.
Huh? I didn't think it ever was.
Yes.
Well, in any case, another interesting thing, in Naples, Florida, there's an antique store, and at the end of the antique store are all this memorabilia. And the man who owns all of it has Admiral Kimmel's sword in a sheath. And so I was in there holding that sword, and I thought, wouldn't that be wonderful to buy it and give it to Harriet?
Did you?
No, I don't think it's for sale. I think it's still there.
No, they weren't.
Tell her about it anyway.
Yeah,
Oh, yes, she knows about it.
but he.
Harriet was in my class.
Yeah, but he was exonerated.
Finally.
Yeah.
I want to move on to one of the sadder topics of your campus life, and that is how did you feel when you learned, well first, how did you learn that National Park College would be closing, and how did you feel? How did you react to that?
Well, I was here because I was in the last class, and I still remember Dr. Davis coming to chapel and saying, "You ladies will have to go elsewhere next year because this school is closing. The government is taking it over." And we were all absolutely shocked. But 16 of us from our class went to Briarcliff up in New York State, and we graduated from there. But it was a big blow, and Of course, here we are after all these years coming back here, not back to Barclay.
And my sister was due to come to school that year. Her trunk was here, but then she was told that she could not come here because the school had been taken over by the Army. And she ended up going to Marjorie Webster, was another school here in Washington that closed. Also, not too long after that. But we just, all of us were heartbroken when we heard this was happening to our school.
The only good thing about it, I thought what a wonderful place for the maimed and disabled to come back to. Not to have to go to a typical rehabilitation center, and here they could kind of collect themselves. And I thought if we have to go, it's a worthy cause. I really did.
It was a worthy
cause. A worthy cause. My husband happened to be in the Army for 5 years.
Mine too.
Whoever knew whether he might be among them. So, rang a bell.
If the college had not closed, would you have wanted your daughters to come here?
Oh, of course.
Yes.
I would have wanted daughters, but I never had boys.
As a matter of fact, it was funny. My oldest daughter and I did a trip down south to look at schools. And we went to, what's the school over in Virginia? Anyway.
University? Girls' school?
It's a girls' school, Mary Baldwin or something like that. But they had a beautiful ballroom. And so Jenny said to me, I know why you want me to go to this school. You're always talking about your ballroom. But she didn't end up any school like that. She went to the University of Michigan, which had a beautiful campus, even though it was a great big school.
One of our board members is from University of Michigan, I believe. Okay, following up on that question, since your children could not go to this campus, what did you learn here that you felt was important to pass on to your children or to other people who are important in your life, younger people in particular? What did you pass on or want to pass on from National Park College to young people that you were responsible for?
Well, I can tell you something. I have talked about this school to my children all these years. My eldest is going to be 60, and my other two are in their 50s. And about a year ago, my younger son, Ernie, got on the internet and looked up the history of this school and everything about it, and put together a beautiful album for me, all done up with ribbons on the side, and gave it to me for my birthday. That was wonderful. And it's a beautiful thing. I'll give it to the school. I mean, to the, what was the school?
When we will treasure it.
Well, you can imagine having two boys and having gone to National Park and trying to say the important things in life to me. And there now I have one that's 60 and one that's 65. And they say, Mother, every time they become exasperated with me, they say, Mother, you lived a very sheltered life.
It's true. It's true. But I do think that our children did all appreciate being part of a family, that we had a mother who went to National Park and could talk about her experiences there, and it just I'm sure they could really imagine our days here, because we talked about them, and I'm sure it had influence on their lives. I hope it did. But their lives are totally different today. You know,
Totally.
they wouldn't probably seek out a school like this, because they were more interested in, well, I shouldn't say the finer things in life, but you know what I mean. There's so many.
It's a different world.
It's a different world
It's
today.
an entirely different world. This is gone.
You can't expect them to be like we were then.
My granddaughters, when I tell them about my school experience, they say, it must have been lovely, Nan, but those were in the olden days.
The olden days, yeah. Right.
That lets me know how old I am.
But a lot of the niceties of life, as we all know, haven't really changed that much. So I'm sure that this is the way we like to have our lives.
They've been forgotten, though.
Somebody wants to know if you were the first college-educated women in your families when you came here.
Not I.
No.
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 First,
Educated female.
College-educated. Were you the first women in your family to go to a college?
Yeah, I don't think my mother did.
Yeah, my mother didn't go. I had an aunt who did.
I did too.
No, my mother and father didn't go to college.
No.
Someone else wants to know if there's a piece of sculpture among all of the sculptures on the campus, if there's a piece that you remember or you remember with particular fondness or has special meaning for you.
Oh, the one in the circle
Yeah,
in front of the
fountain.
building. That's
The
fountain.
spectacular.
The fountain.
The fountain.
Yeah, the fountain.
The fountain. Yeah, I would say the fountain.
And I think walking through the
Grounds,
walkway where the statues, the maidens are.
Oh, yes.
Our favorite
The
part.
chapel.
Especially when it was raining and we didn't have to go out and get all wet.
Yeah.
You got to know them better.
The walkways with the caryatid.
Yeah, I always loved that.
Oh, those are beautiful.
And you mentioned the chapel,
Oh.
which leads to what room, what space, what room on the campus was your favorite?
Ballroom.
Oh, yeah.
Ballroom. In the dining room.
Here's a question that's very interesting, and you've sort of hinted on this and got at this already, but what values from the old days do you wish were part of life today?
The way the children dress.
Respect.
Yeah,
Respect.
respect.
Respect and the way children should dress. All right,
Well, not
It works for
only
me.
the way they need to dress, respect for the elderly, respect for,
Their language.
yes, language, propriety. Oh, God, I could go on.
and that was a question about the old days. Now a question about the outside world. When you were here at the school, how much of current events intruded in your life? How important,
Well, the
how
war.
knowledgeable
Well,
were you
we
of
didn't
current
have
events?
television. We had
No.
Lowell Thomas at 7 o'clock at
Yeah.
night. It kept
Right.
us
And what was the other one?
Lowell Thomas.
The other one. Lowell Thomas. The other.
Later, he came later, though. I know who you mean.
Well, the war was a
Oh,
big
it was a little more
influence.
than
Well, with
Oh,
more
come
for
on.
you than
Yeah,
it
true.
was just
We're having a senior moment.
we didn't. We didn't think much about that. We really didn't.
Well, no, you didn't.
But the
That
war
happened
hadn't
for
really-
me.
Come on, he
Yeah.
lived on Long Island and
I know.
he covered the war.
I know. I can't think of.
I'm getting all kinds of signals that we're
Ask
getting
the audience who
close,
it was.
close to time to wrap up. So I'm going to ask one more question, and then if any of you or all of you want to make a brief closing statement, you may do that. But my question is, and remember, we have photographic evidence about this, so tell
Watch
the
it.
truth. Did you sunbathe on the roof of any of the buildings?
Did we what?
On the roof of any of the buildings?
Definitely.
Someone has been talking.
Yes. I did.
I did.
Sure, we all
I
did.
climbed
You all
out
did,
the
okay.
window.
We had a night watchman, and we got to know his routine very well.
You sunbathed at night?
And he had a key.
Yeah, that's doing him.
He had a key, and we would all listen when he hit our station. And then we knew how long it would be before he'd be back. So we had X number of minutes to goof off, and we did.
You're tripping on
And don't
that.
forget, we did have a smoking room here. We could go down into the smoking room and play cards.
Not in
And,
the middle of the night, though.
but I mean, it sounds like we didn't ever do anything really bad, but we had.
To wrap it up, is there any final word, final message you want to give to our audience, or a final comment on the school? I know we've left out some of the questions that people asked, but I think we covered most of the topics that people asked about.
Well, we've left our memories here, and we hope you'll make as many wonderful memories being here as we did.
And the people who live here, you have to be some of the luckiest ones.
Oh, yes.
We just had become, as Bobby said, you know, if I didn't have my place in Pennsylvania, I think I'd move down here.
Oh, I would. I'd be here in a minute.
If we had known which way it was going, we would have had the Survivors Club in National Park.
Yeah, we could have had our own sororities right here. Yeah. And,
Oh, this is the most wonderful place.
It is. We're
And
ready.
of course, the three of us have gotten to be very good friends through
That's right.
these reunions. And we don't know, we're
And
not
we've
getting
had
any
them-
younger.
We've had them almost, considering the school hasn't been in existence all these years, we have had them almost every year through those 70 years.
people thought we were a little crazy, going back to a reunion. We didn't even have a school. And we did it year after year.
Even
Yeah,
my
because
children wondered at times.
When I left
You're
Florida,
carrying this a little far.
when I left Florida to come here, everybody was saying, well, what reunion is it? What year? I said, it doesn't matter what year.
Only 70.
They worry about us getting here and back alone. We were so determined we were going.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Oh, it's such a thrill to come back. And the last time that I was here, well, the three of us were here, everything was still unfinished, including this ballroom. And the dining room was, nothing had been done there. And so when we went in the dining room yesterday and saw those beautiful columns with that gorgeous woodwork, carved woodwork at the top of those columns, it is very special. It's what a thrill. The three of us are having a little trouble holding back the tears.
Yeah, well, we didn't.
This,
we
when
walked into the
in here,
ballroom.
the
Yeah.
three of us, that was
Yeah.
very moving, no question about it.
We've seen a lot of tears and laughter over the
Yeah.
past
Yes.
weekend.
Right.
Yes.
Well, I just want to thank all of you for gracing us with your presence, and thank our audience for coming and sharing this special time with us. We join you in our appreciation of the seminary, the college, and we hope we will always live up to your standards and remember who we represent.
Well, we join you in thanking you
Thank
all
you.
Yes,
for
thank you
protecting
very
what's
much.
very dear to us, and we will continue